Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, I had been hoping to have a Meatmas update ready for you today, but it needs a little more time in the oven. Trust me, it is worth it. So I thought I would start out this week's devlog by showing you some of the, essentially a whole new class of firearm that I have gotten operational that is quite relevant to our slowly building collection of World War II era firearms, and that is the open bolt weapon. There actually already is an open bolt weapon in the game, the Mac 11, but it's very old code base wise and not configurable like my my new system. And so I thought I would show off here to begin with an exemplar of this type of firearm and explain what makes these different from most of the other sort of fully automatic weapons that we play around with in H3 that are closed bolt. So this is the Sten Mark II. It's a British SMG from World War II, and I think an answer to the question how little gun you can have and still have something still be a gun. This is basically just a tube, a spring, a really heavy bolt, and a couple bolts, latches, and screws holding it all together, and what might be the least comfortable stock and handle ever produced on a production firearm. So let's take a look at this. So what makes these different? Well, with a closed bolt firearm, what happens is that the bolt comes back, ejecting the prior round, comes forward, chambers that round, and then the bolt sits forward right on that round, ready for you to pull the trigger and fire. With an open bolt weapon, what happens is that the bolt is held back here by the sear, and when you release the trigger, the bolt slams forward, extracting a round from the magazine, and then immediately firing it. So it goes like that. So with the Sten here, and what this basically means is that open bolt weapons tend to be more mechanically simple, which is why you find so many of them in this era's firearms. So let's pop a magazine in here. You'll notice that there's this notch back here for our bolt that we're grabbing, and that's because this is the closest thing that this gun has to a safety. Basically, we just pull it back, rotate it, and it holds back there. Otherwise, our fire selector is simply between semi and full. So let's try this on semi first. Let's pull this back, let it rest there. We can see right in there to our mag, ready to extract. Grab our front, take aim. Watch that pop out there. Going to full. Haha, wonderful. I adore these. I actually got to fire back at Battlefield Vegas, both a Mark II and a Mark V a while back. They felt really fun. They are heavier than you expect them to be, obviously being made out of steel. There's also a bunch of things we can do with an open bolt weapon here that obviously are a little dangerous. One of which is that we can just hold the bolt back here, go ahead and pull the trigger down, and as soon as we release the bolt, this sucker's just going to run. Like so. This is, you've probably heard that one of the things about open bolt weapons is that they are a little dangerous, or many of the older ones, in that especially if this is just sitting on the bolt here, and this were to be loaded, you just whack this really hard, and it would let off at least one shot. But I love them, and yeah, it's just such a fun form factor. To go with our Mark II here, we also have the Mark V, also known as the Brits had enough money to put a handle on it version. That I believe were more common just after World War II or towards the tail end of it. It's got this foregrip here. We've got some wood furniture, but otherwise it's pretty much operationally identical. think I have a stiffer return spring in this one, so its fire rate is a little faster. One of the things that I've been experimenting around with this class of weapon relative to the others, especially because they tend to feature these really meaty springs, is that a more involved spring simulation is actually present here for the bolts. In many ways, just a coding fascination of mine. I continue to iterate towards trying to find the best way to represent a system like this from a simulation standpoint. So, and we've got the Sten Mark 6, which has a integral suppressor here, and this like cool piece of I don't know if this is supposed to be leather or canvas, but to hold on to it, lacking the foregrip. The Brits really were the ones who were most interested in suppressed weapons during World War II. You can really hear the bolt mechanic noise too when we've got a much more dampened firing noise. Oh, there we go. It's one of the things I love about these is you really do get a distinct sound between the bolt catching on the sear after a shot or a burst of shots, or the bolt actually returning all the way forward. Just makes for a more interesting and varied sonic experience. Beautiful. So that is our first set of open bolt firearms. The other thing I wanted to show you while we are here in VR is actually something I've been meaning to fix for a little while now with two of our bullpup weapons, which is their fire selectors. So both the FAMAS and the L85 had an inaccuracy that had been bothering me for a while that I finally went about fixing. Let's go ahead and load this to demonstrate, which is that we have a fire selector that is accessible by the main hand on the FAMAS here that takes us between safe, isn't firing, semi, and a 3-round burst. However, in real life, the FAMAS is also capable of firing unrestricted full auto, not just burst, but that isn't a feature that's accessible here. It's similar to the Vector 45, if you play around with it, in that there is another selector switch, in the case of the FAMAS back here, which changes that 3-round burst to full auto. So that's how you do that now. Is once again it's just changing the 3-round burst to full auto. Cycling between that safe and semi is still done with left on the touchpad. And then lastly, we have a similar sort of change to the L85 here. Let's go ahead and put this up. With the L85, we just have a cross bolt safety up front, meaning that the left on the touchpad is just going to take us between safe and semi. And if we want to go between semi and full auto, we have to come back here and click that selector switch back there. Wonderful. So just so you know, little control update. I figured I would show you that, and those will function like that in the next update. So let's go ahead and jump out of VR now and talk about something super special we are doing this month.
Yo! So we're out of VR, which means it's time to announce that special thing I mentioned. And that thing happens to be that we are doing another Meatmas Contest this year. That's right, it's the H3VR Make a Meatmas Ornament Contest. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to roll up your sleeves, step away from your computer for once, and make, however you see fit, a hangable Meatmas tree ornament. You can you can make it completely by hand. You can digitally sculpt it and 3D print it and finish it in some way. Kit bash it. Use parts of model kits, random junk from your garage, far too much glitter, macaroni pasta, welded things, or anything else you can think about. The only constraints are that it has to be physical, it has to be hangable, And yeah, that's about it. Which does mean that you can't just, you know, duct tape a rifle to a cow out back and be like, that's the ornament. It's got to be able to be hung from something. So yeah, so this the way this is going to work is that the contest runs from right now until December 24th. I'm going to have a pinned entry right up on the H3VR subreddit. You can submit something anytime during that window. You can submit multiple things if you'd want to. They should each be as separate entries. And basically, your ornament needs to have a title, and there needs to be 2 to 3 photographs of it that should be at least 1,000 by 1,000 pixels so we can really see it. Preferably, it should be hanging from something, whether you've got like a holiday wreath, you know, a Meatmas tree, a Festivus pole, what have you. You know, try to take a nice shot if you can. And in terms of the contest structure, there's going to be 5 categories that will each win in their given category a set of prizes. And those categories are meatiest entry, I went to art school, there was an attempt, mom's favorite, which will be having somewhere between 2 and 5 moms doing the judging for, and subreddit's choice, which you folks will be voting on. Last year, the way I had done the subreddit's choice voting was that it did the like ranked upvote style sort of post, but I didn't really like that because it sort of privileged people who got their entries in earlier just because there was more time for folks to vote on them. So this year, instead, what I'm going to do is actually put together like a survey right at the end of the contest once entries have closed, and then post it up on that post, and then voting from everyone will be open between December 25th and January 4th, with the winners in each category announced on the January 5th devlog of 2018. So you might be asking, well, okay, we got a contest. What are the prizes? Well, each winner in the 5 categories will get an H3 swag box full of all sorts of crazy little stuff, including some apparel. You'll get a game key to give to a friend. Your entry will be immortalized in perpetuity in the Meatmas snow globe scene, just like last year's winners. And then there'll be one final little thing that is specific to that category, we should say appropriate. I've got one of those things right here in front of me, made by one of the game's artists. It is this absolutely sweet framed Colibri Wen cross stitch, which is the closest you're ever going to get to getting this gun from me. So there. So that is the contest. I'll be putting up the post basically right at the same time as posting this devlog. I encourage you all to, especially if you've got some time off from school and such, or just vacation or what have you, and want to do a fun thing, especially if you've never like done a craft project before and just want to dive in and do something goofy and fun. I thoroughly encourage you. You don't have to have a VR system or have the game to participate. Anyone can. Just if you don't have a Reddit account, go ahead and make one, and you should be able to post a comment on the section. We don't restrict that with new accounts. So yeah, so that's gonna be what we're gonna be doing this month. I might make one along with you folks, just because it's been a while since I've done a non-digital craft project. So cool. So that is about it for this week. As I mentioned, we're going to have something the other half of our Meatmas fun will be arriving next week, which should occupy plenty of your time on the digital side of things for the month of December, and I'm super excited about it. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.